Bet horse racing on DRF Bets. We'll match your first deposit up to $250. Get free expert picks and past performances, plus weekly cash back, all from Daily Racing Form, the most trusted name in horse racing. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, kicking off the $1 pick six on Belmont Stakes Saturday with the Grade 1 Jaipur. Some really fast turf sprinters going 3/4 of a mile on the inner turf. Before we get to the analysis, please go to drf.com/Belmont Stakes. Please take advantage of the 25% off the retail price and get your Belmont Stakes winners package. Past performances, clocker reports, betting strategies, the player's guide, and lots more. Here's the field for the Grade 1 Jaipur. It is a full field, and it's an intriguing race because you look at it, Mike, there are a lot of closers in this race. Bound for Nowhere actually utilized a closing style out of necessity last time out, but he's a pretty fast horse when he breaks, and maybe he can control this up front.
Yeah, it certainly feels like that's a possibility in this race. I mean, it's not like there are a bunch of slow horses in here, Dan. I mean, I think there are horses who could get forward in this race if they wanted to. It just hasn't necessarily been the preferred running style for a lot of them. Bound for Nowhere is probably the horse to beat anyway. But if he makes an early lead in this race and doesn't have to go fast, he's going to be double tough.
Talked to Wesley Ward earlier this week as we take a peek at the Timeform U.S. pace projector. He says Bound for Nowhere can be a little bit quirky in the gate, and he stood in the gate for a long time before his last race, the Shakertown. He didn't break. That put him behind the 8 ball. He still was able to overcome. With a good break here, we know this is a very good horse.
Yeah, he's a very talented horse for sure. I mean, he is the kind of horse who, sort of runs by appointment only these days, but when he shows up, he runs.
Chewing Gum was Grade 3 placed at Belmont over the Widener last year in the Belmont Turf Sprint. I've always questioned whether he was a Grade 1 horse for Belmont, but he can benefit from his seasonal debut. Let's watch that race on May the 14th. I thought he ran okay in this race, Mike. We see Chewing Gum on the outside. He's going to make a run into it. He's going to keep grinding and grinding and grinding, and he's just going to get outfinished by penalty from behind. I thought it was a useful effort. You're going to stick with Chewing Gum?
No, listen, he ran fine in this race. I do think cutting back from 7 to 6 could be a good thing for him. I just don't know if he's good enough to beat this field.
Belmont also has Casa Creed, and this horse has always been solid, going middle distances, and Mott turned him back last time out to 7/8 in the elusive quality. And let's watch that race right now because this is one of the best races we've seen from Casa Creed. He's in behind horses. There wasn't a ton of pace on in this race. And once he gets into the clear and gets motoring, he rolls on home. Nice effort from Casa Creed. This is 7, though. The question is the 6 on Saturday a little sharp for him?
It's the real question. I thought he ran great in this race. Then he got a great trip and ride from Joe Bravo, but he also closes down a pretty good field in that race. I mean, I thought he ran really well last time. At first, I wasn't in love with the idea of them cutting him back again. The more I looked at the race, the more I feel like, you know what? This might actually be good for him. Maybe shorter distances are better for this horse. And on his best day, he might be every bit as good as Bound for Nowhere as far as talent goes.
Number 3, Completed Pass, has been one of the Mid-Atlantic region's better turf sprinters for a number of years now. He runs back on 3 weeks rest after this effort in the Jim McKay Turf Sprint. He had a tough outside post, and the first jump wasn't very good, so he was really put to a hard chase on the outside. And these are a couple of talented sprinters in front of him on a day where on turf and dirt, it was tough to get by horses.
It was. I thought this horse ran well in this race. Then I liked him in this race, and I felt like the break really compromised him in here. All in all, pretty good performance. His turf form is very good, basically right down the line. There are very few bad races on his card. He's going to be a price in here.
Number 4 is Fast Boat in razor sharp form for trainer Joe Sharp. Let's go back to his race 2 starts back at Sam Houston in their turf sprint. This race going 5/8 of a mile. Fast Boat has a lot of work to do. He flies on home.
He ran really well in this race, and he came back in his next start on Derby weekend down at Churchill, and he ran really well in that race too, Dan. Source is in very good form right now. I read Ortiz sticks. He's going to need probably a little bit of pace in this race, which he might get. And if he gets it, I'll expect him to run another good race.
I think Irad can maybe adapt a little bit because if you go back in his form, he was able to sit a little bit close last summer at Churchill Downs when he ran that big Beyer speed figure. So I think if the pace is moderate, he can adapt. But Joe Sharp did tell me he likes him when he's able to relax and make one run. Gray's Creek is the number 5. This horse is going to be one of the outsiders in this race. He ran some nice races last year going middle distances. But Mike, I'm not really sure, A, if he's a 3/4 of a mile horse, and B, if he's a grade 1 type.
Yeah, he was hard for me to take cutting all the way back for this race. And I say that as someone who was a big fan of this horse early on in his career. I felt like he had a lot of potential for Chad Brown. So far, he hasn't delivered on it. They're going to try to sprint him in here. I don't love that idea, but I don't think this horse is terrible.
Bound for Nowhere's the perhaps horse to catch and beat. Let's watch his race in the Shakertown. Didn't break very well. Joel Rosario got him to settle. The pace was fast. We're going to see him ease out into the clear, and he comes with a run. And he runs down a nice horse in Imprimis. The Critical Way is in this race as well. Bound for Nowhere has no problem at Belmont Park. He has no problem shipping. He has no problem with the distance. If he breaks, he's going to be right there when they turn for home.
Yeah, I mean, can't argue with any of that. I mean, in a lot of ways, he's just way the horse to beat in this race. It's nothing but fast races on his card. It just feels like he shows up every time. Again, he doesn't show up that often. I mean, a couple of times a year, you tend to see this horse, and that's it. A lot of time between his races. So maybe it's even a good sign that he's coming back in only a couple of months here. Listen, I'm not going to be surprised when he wins, Dan. To me, this was the kind of race where either you take him or you leave him. I ultimately decided to leave him. I'm going to bet somebody else, but I'm not going to be surprised when I'm wrong.
In from Southern California is Gregorian Shant. Phil D'Amato did a lot of experimenting with this horse, ran him at longer distances early in his career, cut him back from 1.5 miles Hollywood Turf Cup to a 3/4 of a mile Clocker's Corner Stakes, and since then the horse has been unstoppable. He's won 3 in a row. He's 4 for 4 sprinting in his life, and let's watch his last race. Nice little allowance prep for this. Not a ton of pace on in this short field. He was spun widest into the stretch. He kicks them all down, and the horse that runs second, Bombard, is an okay little horse.
I agree. I mean, he's run well in all 3 of his 6 furlong starts since they cut him back, and that includes this one, where he gets this trip every time, Dan. They sit at the back, they sweep around the field, and he stays to the end. Bombard's a good horse. The horse that ran 3rd in there, Chaos Theory, is a good horse. It feels like he beat some quality rivals last time. He's 10-1 on the line. I think there's plenty to like here.
You could argue that the 9, Alexandra, when she's feeling right, is the strongest closer in the race. She won this race last year when she got a big pace ahead of her, but that's what she needs because she is a true one-run closer. And last time out at Churchill, she had no pace to run at.
Yeah, it's true. The race didn't set up great for her last time. She also didn't feel like she fired her best shot in that race, Dan. So we'll see if she can do it now. Second time back off of a little layoff. I wonder if maybe she's lost a step. I might be being a little bit too hard on her because I remain a big fan of hers. And I know that with her best race, she's going to be a handful in this field. I just wonder if she's as good as she once was.
It's really all about whether Doug O'Neill will have Stubbins ready to roll off of the layoff. We haven't seen this horse since September the 12th, but go back in Formulator and watch some of his races. Watch the Woodford of 2019, where he's last on the rail turning for home. He bulls his way out and he runs them down. Watch the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint that year, where he just had a miserable trip, and once he sliced to the rail, he was flying late. He has some ability. He's been unlucky.
He's been unlucky a few times. I agree with what you said about those 2 races at the end of 2019, Dan. Even his final start last year, you can go watch that race. He ran fine in there, but it felt like that was a day where the turf was really soft at Kentucky Downs. He looked like he hated it, but he still managed to only get beat about a little bit more than a length in there. I don't know. I like this horse. I even feel like when they ran him in this race last year, Dan, he might have run better than it looks that day. That pace was quick. He chased it. You don't see it in his PPs, but he made the lead between calls there in the stretch, and then he just got tired as Alexandra came from last to first to win it. I think this horse is underrated, and as we already talked about the pace, Dan, he's not slow early. If this pace doesn't develop, he'll be up close.
The number 11, Got Stormy, is one of the coolest horses in training, one of the more popular ones at that. She has beaten males in a grade 1 race in the past. The 4-star Dave of 2019, she was second in both the Woodbine Mile and Breeders' Cup Mile that year, second in the 4-star Dave. We thought maybe she lost a step last year, and Mark Casse turned her back sprinting, and she ran some really fine races. Last time out in the Distaff Turf Mile, kind of a weird race where the pace just ran off, and No one went after that horse. Mark Cassie said after the race got Stormy a little dull. Maybe she needed it.
Maybe. I don't know. I understand why they're cutting her back, Dan. I actually didn't really know what to do with her in here. I know that she can win. I wanted other horses in here. We'll see if the cutback works for her again.
Sambaye drew post position 12, has always been a solid horse for Peter Miller. Just missed to Fast Boat last time out, just missed to Gregorian Chant 2 starts back. This is a horse with some tactical speed, though, and I think Pratt's going to be aggressive leaving post 12.
I like the idea of them cutting him back in his last 2 races. I think he ran really well both times, and he's another horse who can win this race, and he's a great price on the morning line.
Top pick time for the Grade 1 Jaipur. I like Gregorian Chant coming in from Southern California. This is the class test for him, but I like how he's finished off his last few races. Stubbins, great value. I want to use him as well.
I like your horse, Dan. I like Stubbins a little bit more. I put him on top. I'm going to use Casa Creed and hope he handles the 6 furlongs. I'm just going to try to beat this favorite, whether I'm right or wrong.
10-2, 6 and 8 for Mike. 8-6, 10-3 for me. It's the Grade 1 Jaipur Stakes. It's a Super Belmont Stakes Saturday. Best of luck.